Hey, this is Rocket Brain Surgeon. Today we're taking a look at the Pershing. We're following Hey around in this Tier 8 US medium tank. We're on mines, and the typical strategy for a medium on mines is to head up into the middle, otherwise known as the donut. The difficulty here is sometimes you just get annihilated. So Hey is already in one-shot territory, and we are 1 minute into the game. That's a pretty rough start. And the reason why he got taken down so hard is because the mobility of the Pershing is just okay. It's not really a standout on the exceptionally great side, but it's also not a huge dog either. If he was a little bit faster, he would have been able to get up that. Coming from the very spritey T20, it's going to feel like a little bit of a letdown. That's okay though. The Pershing is one of those tanks where it's so old that it's kind of new again. It was one of the original tanks in the game, and it's kind of been outclassed in power creep as time has gone on, but so much time has gone on that everything has come full circle, and now the Pershing is becoming good again. So the Pershing started falling out of favor because the game was really centered around artillery and doing scout work, and the Pershing is definitely okay at doing scout work, but it wasn't something like the T-44, which had awesome mobility and great camouflage, or even the Type 59, where it could remain hidden. The camouflage on the Pershing is really not great, especially for a medium tank. You're going to get seen at long distances. A year or two ago, before the additions of several maps, and before the duplication of Ruinberg and Himmelsdorf, Malinovka and Muravanka came up a lot, and so did Prokhorovka. So there was a lot of vision struggle maps where the Pershing was going to be not quite outclassed, but it wasn't going to be best in tier either. But now that all of the maps are getting reworks to avoid vision mechanics, the Pershing has actually become better, because unlike some of the other tanks like the T-44, the Pershing has actually very usable armor in the turret. The mantlet is quite good on the Pershing. It's rated for over 200 millimeters of protection on the turret, and it covers up most of the front turret. So now that there's less of an emphasis on vision struggles, you want your medium tanks to have some form of usable armor, even if it's just kind of crazy angles, or in this case, a workable mantlet. Another area where the Pershing fell out of favor and has now come back into favor is in premium ammunition. When premium rounds for credits were first introduced, heat rounds were greatly favored because they had just insane levels of penetration. So you'd find 300 penetration on a Tier 8 premium round, which is absolutely ridiculous, capable of going through the turrets of Tier 10 tanks. I mean, any tank, any angle, that was basically the phenomenon. But when heat got nerfed, all of a sudden, and heat mechanics got changed along with penetration being reduced, heat became a lot less good than APCR. The APCR round on the Pershing has remained, I think, unchanged throughout this process, and a premium APCR round with 268 penetration is very good. Another sign of how the game has changed over the years is another phenomenon with the gun, and that is the accuracy and just how combat has evolved. So back in the day, it was either spotting for artillery or taking long-distance shots on huge view range maps. And the Pershing, while it has a fairly good aim time, it doesn't have really great accuracy, so that was definitely a detriment when you're sniping for 500 meters and the accuracy is just so-so. But now with all of the maps being brawling maps and accuracy changes making snapshots far more common, and in fact the defining feature of the new metagame, the Pershing has come back into favor because it has such a low effective aim time and good snapshot capability that who cares about accuracy anymore? And lastly, gun depression is just more usable than it once was. With the improvements to the game engine, they've added a lot more terrain features, i.e. everything has gotten just bumpier. Also, back in the day, it didn't matter if you were hiding behind a rock. Artillery was just going to blast you and whatever. But now that there's more tank-on-tank combat and the maps are just bizarrely hilly and bumpy, the 10 degrees of gun depression is really, really handy. So yeah, I just think it's funny that the Pershing, while pretty much unchanged for years, has gotten better because the game has changed around it. Back to this game proper, the IS-3 right there just lost patience, while Hey has been exhibiting incredible patience throughout this entire game. And that's kind of where we're at now in World of Tanks. You don't want to risk yourself unnecessarily. You almost need your opponent to make some mistakes, just the way that the maps are, just the way that the vision mechanics work. You need to make sure that you don't expose yourself stupidly. And when you do expose yourself right there, he got a quick shot, leaving the IS at 4 HP. When you do expose yourself for a shot, you want to make sure that he can't really counter, or his counter is going to be less than optimal. So the IS could try to throw one through his mantlet, but it would have been a snapshot, which is risky anyway, and he snapshots and misses there. But even if he did actually hit the mantlet, it wasn't a guaranteed penetration. With a base round, it was most likely not even going to pen through the mantlet anyway. One important thing to get from the play in this game is that even though Hey was brutalized in the beginning, I think there's no other way to say that one, he tried to make sure that he played correctly all throughout it. Now, sometimes he's just going to get annihilated on the next shot really early in the game. But even now, he's giving himself a chance to succeed by keeping his turret as the only thing exposed when he's shooting at this souffle. So you can see that when he lines up a shot, he's going to keep the reticle as far kind of to the land as possible to hide as much tank as possible. You can see he's backing up as he gets the shot, and the souffle bounced off his mantlet. There are going to be times where the souffle just hits his hatch or just rolls high and goes through and kills him, but you want to make every opportunity as difficult as possible. When that IS pulled around and he snapshot, there are going to be times where that hits the turret and goes right through the turret. There are going to be times where there's an unseen enemy or who takes a blind shot at you, whatever. But you still need to play correctly, and I want to stress that this type of game is not going to happen every time, where you get annihilated down to one-shot territory right at the beginning, and then, hey, I'm just going to Top Gun. No, that's going to be a relative rarity, and you have to understand that, but you just have to go through the process. Every shot, every time you peek, you have to go through the right thought process, and then games like this will become more plentiful. A good rule of thumb is a third of the games you're going to win no matter what you do, a third of the games you're going to lose no matter what you do, and it's that last third of games where you can make a huge impact on whether or not you win or lose. And so try not to get frustrated when there's nothing you can do. It's just everything's against you. Just shrug that right off, let it roll off your back, load up the next game. You just want to prepare and make sure that you can get to these games. This is a game where he is able to influence the outcome, and he takes every opportunity to do so. And these are the types of games where you can swing it, and these really pad your win rate. Even though it's 3 out of 10 games where you can make a difference, it's preparing to get these games is what's going to make you a great player. Now, figuring out when those games that are prime carry material, that's another story for another day. But every shot, every time you expose yourself, go through the right thought process, and then it all works itself out. Hope you enjoyed. Happy hunting.